Hi, I'm Morgana the Doll Witch, where I take science, a little bit of magic to make my dolls their very best selves. And so today we are going to do some work on fixing feet. Got my working hat on, and I have a Garrus here. There he is, so lovely. And he's got some scuffed up feet. And unfortunately, that's just kind of thing with these dolls, is their feet get scuffed up. If you're not familiar, if you don't have a doll yet, or if you're not familiar with how the doll's feet are, so they have their metal skeleton, and they have a plate in at the end of their leg, and it's just a kind of a little bit of shaped plate, and it has 3 bolts, 2 at the front, 1 at the back. I do know that there are some dolls that don't have standing feet. Most of them have standing feet. Matter of fact, I don't know anybody that has a dog that doesn't have standing feet anymore. And so, those bolts can get, you just have the bolts, that plate, and then TPE. And although TPE is pretty forgiving for a lot of things, it will get scuffed up. And so, that's just an issue with these dolls. Now, there's some things you can do to minimize that. Having a good thick pair of socks. I got these at Dollar Tree. They're diabetic socks, and I got them because, first of all, they're really stretchy, so they go on easy, and they're thick. They're only $1 too, so these are the socks I get. And you want to get neutral colors. Don't get the black ones. Get white or gray, because black ones might stain your dolls. We're going to talk, I know Z's planning to do a video on, like, removing stains, because TPE really stains pretty easy with clothing dye, so make sure you have, anything that you're putting on your doll has been washed and you know for a fact it won't bleed. Also, a pair of shoes. Now, I didn't buy him Skechers. These I bought for myself, but they're just a little bit too small. And his feet are just a little bit smaller than mine, so that worked out great. And the thing that's good about these is they have a foam insert. And so the good thing about that foam insert is their standing bolts will sink into it, and it keeps their feet from shifting around the shoes, which can cause scuffing. You don't have to spend anything expensive. Maybe go to thrift stores. You can find some shoes. Those foam clogs you can buy. I use those because that'll get something the bolts to set into, and they're cheap. They're kind of funky looking. I have some that I wear out in the garden, but thing is protecting the dolls. And so here's some tools you're going to need. Butane or propane torch. Doesn't have to be a fancy one. You can get these. I got mine on eBay for, I think it was like $11.75. I spent the extra 50 cents for a pretty one. Harbor Freight. Some of the like gourmet cooking stores, they'll sell these for making, like, my daughter makes creme brulee, so I keep her in stock so I can get me some creme brulee. A kitchen, like an eating spoon, and you're going to want a thick one. Don't get the really thin, cheap ones, like, you can get at thrift stores or at the Dollar Tree or something. Get a thick one. You can get these at thrift stores. If you've got one, you're not going to eat with it again, okay? But because it'll hold the heat, it gives you more working time between heating up. And then this is a fake fingernail remover. Got this at Dollar Tree for $1. Best buck I've ever spent. Use it a lot for the smaller areas. That, or, you can get if you got like a small strip of metal or something that you want to handle on it so you don't burn yourself, because it's going to get hot. You're also going to need some paper towels. Now, I cut mine up in fourths, because I'm not going to use a whole paper towel for certain things. And then makeup sponges. Now, here's the thing about these makeup sponges. You can buy them in a brick, and they come all kind of stuck together like, like this. You can get a brick for $1. Thing is, these are supposed to be one use. I hate wasting things. I hate putting a lot of things in the land environment, because these don't break down very well. And so you can reuse these. I have it's a Folger can a friend of mine gave me, and when I've done using them, I put them in the can. I put some like dish soap or laundry soap in there, squeeze them, make sure, and then I run them through the wash. I have a lingerie bag that has a zipper in it. Put them in the lingerie bag, throw them in the wash. After they're done, just hang them up, let them dry. Or I mean, you can't put them through the dryer. Just don't let them get too hot, because then they get kind of weird when you do that. And they're going to change color a little bit, but they still work fine. And, you know, you can use them 5 or 6 times, and, you know, they're fine until they start shredding or, you know, pieces coming off, and then they're not going to be useful. Okay. And so the paper towels and this are for cleaning. And so the first thing you want to do, and you want to have some alcohol. This is just hand sanitizer, but it's got a spray top, and that works great. Or you can, you know, if you've got, I gotta keep alcohol in this too. For kind of cleaning, disinfecting the area, make sure all the dirt's out. And then you're also going to want a spray bottle, and this is a $1 bottle. I got it, I think, Dollar General, with mineral oil in it, or baby oil. I like mineral oil because it doesn't have any smell, and I can add smell to it. And so first thing you want to do is you got to clean the area. And so I'm going to lower the camera, and so that you can see what I'm working on. And so let me do that real quick. Try not to do it too fast, make you nauseous. All right. Let me push this down. I'm going to work right here, because we're going to be working on this one. Oh, let me get this a little lower. Give me one moment, folks. Oops. Well, nuggets. Sorry about that. I'm still working on my camera. I apologize. All right, there. That's a little bit better. We're going to work on this foot right here. Now, if you can see how that's scuffed, and that's right there. Now, here's the thing. You don't want the bolts to get hot. You've got to leave the bolts in there, because if you don't, and that area closes up, it's going to be harder. Let me move this out a little bit more so you can clip on my tripod here. All right. Now see this area down here? Now that's kind of deep. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's kind of a deep area, but it'll go back together okay. Now I'm kind of move, if there's some loose TPE, kind of take that off. Now, Agaris is a WM, and here's the thing about WMs. So they actually have a wire in the big toe, but these toes don't have wires. And when you get the doll, their toes are connected. Now, if it's your thing, you want the toes unconnected, you can. You can just cut that with a pair of scissors, and then maybe use a knife to smooth it out a little bit, or a heated spoon. You could do that. I keep shoes and socks on him, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, that toe bends, which is kind of cool. It keeps my doll Exil, his toes he's got big feet. His toes they're kind of floppy. I like playing with these floppy toes. So anyway, I know it's silly, right? So first thing is, I'm going to clean his feet. And, you know, get all the grunge off of it. And I'll just use paper towels for this. Yeah, just kind of. And this also, like, if there's any loose TPE, which if there's loose TPE, it's not that big a deal. Because you can always, the thing is getting in here and cleaning around that. Ugh, I didn't even realize how bad that was. That's pretty, yuck. Because the TPE will melt back in there too when you're cleaning. Get back down here. That's really kind of bad here. Okay. Yeah, that fits a lot more scuff than the other one is. I'm going to clean it a little bit more. You can't be, you're not going to over clean this, folks. So the main thing is you don't want any dirt or lint or hair or anything in here, because it'll melt into the TPE and you don't want that. And he got his feet scuffed on the carpet, so he got some stuff kind of ground in there a little bit. So I'm going to make sure I got that cleaned out. Yeah, see, that is a little deep, but I think it should be okay. I'm going to do a video on like how to do, like if you've got cuts or scrapes. And, you know, if you've got to scrape on other parts of the body, you can do the same thing with that. But like if you've got punctures or tears or scrapes, I'll do videos. I'm planning on videos to fix that or show how to fix that. Here's the thing. When you first start doing this, trying to get your technique down, making sure you're doing this correctly. What I did is I got those, it was a butt vagina masturbator. I got it on eBay for like 16 bucks. It was 3 pounds of TPE, which that's really cheap. And I've cut that thing. I cut holes in it, put it back together, punched hair in it. I practiced everything I did before I actually went anywhere near a doll to do those things. And so I definitely recommend practice this. Don't just like get your stuff and start doing it, because you can mess up your dolls. And I don't want that. I don't want anybody to mess up their dolls. I would feel really bad about that. Okay, so I've done the alcohol, and so the next thing is I'm doing the oil. And you can't overdo this. You're going to spray. And the oil will be, and I'm going to use the makeup sponges, because the makeup sponges will get the lint. You want to get all the lint off and any, like little bitty piece of dirt. You just want to make sure you've got it cleaned off as much as possible. If it's TP, it's not going to be that big a deal, because it will melt back into the other, into the foot. But you want to make sure you get all the, any lint, because you don't want that in the TPE, melted into the TPE. And always go across the bottom. I don't know why it always just kind of seems to reside down there at the bottom. All right. I might do one more. Just better safe than sorry, right? Now, if this cut on his heel was a little deeper, I would probably be using paste. Or if it was cut open, like a straight cut, I would use the primer. Now, I'm going to do a video on when to use a primer and when to use when you use paste and how to make paste. I'll probably get that done this weekend. That's kind of my plan, since I'm going to have to make some up anyway, for one of my projects. And so, just cleaning, making sure you got all the crud off the feet, going back, making sure all the lint is off. These are mainly lint free, but sometimes, be careful, don't roll over the bolt too much, because it'll tear the sponge up, and you don't want to tear that. Then you're going to have sponge lint. Alright, that's pretty clean. I'm just working on the bottom of his feet. That's pretty much the only place that has damage on it. So, alright, put that in the bucket. Oh, another thing I have, this is a really thick piece of like denim material, and I use this, I keep it on my leg, because you want to keep your spoon clean. And you want the thick, this is really thick, and then there's 4 layers. It's just a leg I cut off from a pair of shorts I made. And sometimes you'll see the spoon start to heat up, and it'll get this white film. Get that off of there before you put it on your doll, because that will discolor the doll, and you don't want that to happen. And so I'm going to oil the feet up again, and my hair is getting everywhere. That time of year I'm shedding really bad. Oops, wrong one. Alright. Cannot do too much oil on the feet, folks. When you're doing the heating, keep the feet oiled. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do, take my propane torch, take my spoon, and I'm going to heat it. Now, I start down here, and then I work up. You just want to get the spoon heated up. Do not get it, you don't want it like red hot. When you've practiced and done this enough, you get to the point where you know the right temperature and how long to do this. I will just tell you that I've only had Exil since September, and it's now May. So I haven't even had him a full year, but I've also have a lot of experience with sculpting and woodwork and carving, and so that some of those skill sets have really helped being able to take care of my dolls. Okay, so that's getting pretty good. Your first time it's going to get hot, and you want something to keep sitting on when you're not using it. You don't burn yourself. I have burned myself a few times. All right, and so you don't press, just lightly rub. I'm going to start here at the top. Even here. Now you don't want to get the bolts hot. If you start getting the bolts hot, it's going to melt the TPE. You don't want that. You don't want that to happen. Not that way. I'm just kind of smoothing this out. Now I'm going to go back with the smaller one around the bolts a little bit more and clean that up. I'm going to move back down here. See, there's a piece of something there. And you will get this like weird, like sticky stuff. Don't mess with that until after you've let it cool down a little bit. Wow, that is pretty deep. His feet are gonna look like mine. He's got calluses. See that white stuff? That's what that cleaning off. That's why I have the jean material, because it won't burn. That's the thing. One thing you can do if you see the bolts are starting to get kind of hot, spray some oil on it. I'm going to heat this up first. Here, the cool thing about TPE is it is pretty forgiving if you do mess up. I totally have at times. You can go, it's not that hard to go back and fix it. There's really not much that cannot be fixed on these dolls, folks. I'm just telling you. But you just want to be careful. You don't have to redo everything. And so I'm going to spray this down. Ooh, got a little bit of oil on that. And then I'm just going to go around here, because that is pretty deep. So I'm going to have to be melting that quite a bit. Now, you don't want to sit in one area. That's the oil. You hear kind of making that sizzling sound. And that's okay. And I'll get this back down here. Okay. And then I'm just going to go back over this as it's cooling down. Now what I did with this spoon is I took and I textured the back of it. And see, I had got the white scuffy stuff on there. I got to take that off. And then so I just go back and I do this, and that gives it a little of a texturing so that it doesn't have that weird glazed look, because it will definitely have a glazed look if you don't do that. And you do that when it I do that when it starts to cool, and because I textured the back of my spoon. Now, so I should have probably pulled that bolt out a little bit more, and I will go back in and do that. I believe that is a hex 16 is the size of the bolt in there. Okay, and the little thing, what you would use to open it. So for around the bolt, I'm going to use this. Put more oil on here, because I just want to clean it up a little bit. This doesn't take very long, and once you're comfortable and you get used to doing it, it's not you can do this pretty quick. If there's more damage, you might have to use some paste or to rebuild it. I've had to do that with Agera or with Exil. So see that white part right there? I don't know if you can see that. Wipe that off. That will discolor your TPE. Okay. You don't rub it you don't rub it hard. You just want to rub it across just to get the white stuff off on the jean material. Okay. Oh, and make sure if you're going to use jean material, don't use the stretchy stuff. Oops, see, I got that a little too hot. See how red that is? That's a bit too hot. So I'm really careful. I'm not pressing very hard. I move it away from that bolt a little bit because the TPE pressed up against that bolt is more likely to shred. And so I'm going to have to unscrew that bolt out a little bit. And you will see a little bit of melt. It looks like the TPE is melting, but that's actually oil. All right, and so I think that's pretty darn good. I'm just going to go down here and cleaning up around that bolt a little bit. I am going to raise these bolts up. They are in too deep, I think. And then take my spoon. I'm just going to kind of go over it. That will give it some texturing. Get rid of that weird. And it will have this kind of like a film, like a sticky film, which is oil and TPE. Wait till it dries, and then you can just wipe it off with the alcohol and some extra oil. But I'm doing this, it'll take that glazed look off the feet. I know that Mishka Valentino, he'll use sandpaper. I don't personally like to use sandpaper because I've had some bad luck with like grit getting into this TPE when it's warm. And, you know, that's no bueno. But, oops. All right. And so, there we go. And that's all there is to it, folks. It's not that big of a thing to fix. Like I said, get comfortable with working with TPE first, using your tools and equipment. And if you do have a repair that's more involved, please feel free to reach out to me. Leave a comment. I'll get back to you. If you have any questions, also, we'd appreciate if you give us a like and to subscribe. And once again, I am Morgana, the Doll Witch, where I take science and a little magic to make my dolls their very best selves.